After countless hardships, trials, and misunderstandings that once seemed impossible to overcome, their love story between a modest countryside girl, a resilient single mother, and a powerful, wealthy CEO had finally found its peaceful harbor. The tears of the past had now transformed into gentle smiles at the corners of their eyes. But is that happiness truly complete? Behind the title, CEO Hmong, could there still be secrets Tieu Ca has yet to uncover? All will gradually unfold in today's episode. That morning, the sky was neither sunny nor clear, nor was it raining. A thin mist drifted lazily over the treetops at the edge of the village. Occasionally, a few drizzles fell, as if reluctant to rouse the world from its lingering slumber. In that cool, gentle weather, Tieu Ca woke up early. She dressed herself in a simple outfit, slipping on a thin raincoat, her hair tied neatly behind her head. Her hands moved quickly, hands long accustomed to the rhythm of daily labor. The pumpkin patch behind the house was where she spent most of her time. Every vine, every root had been lovingly tended to, just like the way she had guarded her love quietly, without show, but persistently and wholeheartedly. Today, the garden had borne fruit. Plump, round pumpkins hung beneath the lush green canopy, glistening with dew. As she harvested them, she smiled, already imagining the dishes she would prepare or the small earnings she might save for their shared future. Even though the rain fell softly and the path was slippery, Tieu Ca still carried her heavy basket of pumpkins to the market, like she did every day. The load was weighty, the road long, yet her eyes still sparkled with joy, the simple joy of a woman living each day for the dream she holds in her heart. At the same time, not too far away, Hmong, a man seemingly born to live in a world of numbers and negotiation tables, was now at a small lumber yard on the outskirts of town. He wasn't wearing a suit, nor arriving in a luxury car. Instead, he appeared in a rolled-up shirt and dust-covered shoes. Beside him were a few trusted workers, accompanying him as he inspected each lot of timber one by one. This batch of wood wasn't for a high-end villa or a luxurious resort like the ones he was used to managing. This time, it was for a modest house. For Tieu Ca. After days of quiet contemplation, Hmong had made up his mind. He didn't just want to provide for her materially. He wanted to start over with her, truly, from the simplest things. He had secretly drawn up blueprints, calculated materials, and handpicked the sturdiest, finest wood he could find. He wanted this house to be a testament to love, to trust, a warm home where she would never again have to fear life's storms. Every post, every plank would bear the mark of his own hands, not as a wealthy CEO, but as a man learning to slow down, learning to love someone with sincerity. The head carpenter turned to him and asked, "Where's this house going to be built, Mr. Hmong? Which crew are we assigning it to?" Hmong simply smiled and replied, "I'll build it myself. Every piece of wood, every nail. I want to build it with her, with my own hands." It was hard to imagine that this man, once towering over boardrooms, commanding respect from powerful figures, was now yearning to wield a hammer, saw timber and plane wood, just to build a little house for the woman he loved. But this was Hmong, the side of him few had ever seen. Beneath the cold, wealthy exterior was a heart that had known loneliness, had once lost faith, and was now slowly being healed by the quiet, unassuming love of a countryside girl named Tieu Ca. Each living their own life, walking different paths, yet both were quietly preparing for a new beginning. A house was about to be built, not just with wood, but with love, with trust, and with unspoken words that lingered between them. That afternoon, the sun had just set. A gentle breeze carried the scent of dried hay from distant fields across the small yard. Tieu Ca was playing with little Han under the porch. The child's laughter rang out bright and clear, sweeping away the weariness of daily life. Mother and daughter tossed pebbles, picking up the tiny fallen zone blossoms scattered across the yard. The tranquil, simple moment was suddenly interrupted by the sound of steady footsteps approaching the gate. Tieu Ca turned around. A familiar figure was walking toward her, bathed in the soft golden glow of the late afternoon light. It was Hmong. He had just returned from the lumber yard, his clothes still dusted with sawdust, but there was a rare light in his eyes. In his hand, he carried a round, chilled melon, the kind little Han loved most. The moment she saw him, Han waved excitedly. Hmong smiled gently, bent down to pat her head, and placed the melon on the bamboo table. Tieu Ca and her daughter invited him inside, but he chose instead to sit on the bamboo bench in the yard, where the breeze danced. The sun had just dipped below the horizon, and flower petals gently drifted onto the hair of the woman he cherished. He carefully sliced the melon, each piece juicy and sweet, offered like a quiet gift. Han devoured it happily, while Tieu Ca watched him silently, her gaze filled with emotions hard to define. After a few casual exchanges, Hmong looked out toward the empty patch of land nearby, then softly said, "I found some good wood for you. The foundation posts are all ready. Now we just need to split planks and build the walls. If you agree, I'll hire some workers to help. I want to build that house with you." Tieu Ca paused, a flicker of hesitation in her eyes, but after a brief moment of thought, she gave a slight nod. "All right, if you're not afraid of hard work, then I'll take you up on it." The two of them sat there under the slowly descending sunset, reminiscing about the memories from the first days they met, from the time he bought pumpkins at the market, to the unexpected encounters and the quiet gestures of care that needed no words. By now, they had been by each other's side for nearly 8 months. Not a long time, but enough to leave lasting impressions. True, heartfelt emotions etched into their hearts. After a moment of silence, Hmong gently took Tieu Ca's hand in his. His voice was slow, sincere, and steady. "Tieu Ca, you know I've been living alone all this time. Over the past months, I've thought a lot. I truly have feelings for you. Please, let me take care of you and your daughter. Will you let me?" He didn't speak with the voice of a powerful man. Instead, he sounded just like any ordinary person, gathering all his courage to finally speak his heart. His eyes followed every small change in her expression, hopeful, nervous, waiting. Tieu Ca smiled softly. Her lips curled into a quiet, gentle smile. Then she nodded. That smile wasn't just an answer. It was a sign that her heart had finally opened, after all the trials and doubts. Seeing her not reject him, Hmong felt a weight lift from his chest. He let out a quiet breath and continued, his voice lowering slightly, as if preparing to share something long buried. "Actually, I wasn't raised by my birth parents. I was adopted as a child. I've never seen the faces of my real mother and father. The family that raised me, they were kind. My mother's a gentlewoman, but there's always been this invisible distance between us. I still call them Mom and Dad, but deep down, I always felt like I didn't truly belong. My brother, he's their biological son. We grew up together, but I was always the one on the outside. Tieu Ca was taken aback. She looked at him as if seeing a completely different person beneath the polished, strong exterior he usually wore. She whispered, "So, you have a past like that too?" "I never imagined. You were also abandoned once." Hmong gave a bittersweet smile, his eyes faintly glistening. "Maybe that's why I cherish your presence even more. Being with you and little Han, it makes me feel like I finally belong somewhere. Not because of who I am or how much money I have, but simply because I get to live like a normal person, with love and with family." Tieu Ca Kong Noi Them Gi. She just looked at him for a long while. In her gaze was a blend of empathy, quiet emotion, and a budding trust. A soft breeze swept by, scattering zoan blossoms from the trees. A few petals floated down, gently brushing their shoulders. In that moment, time seemed to stand still, to listen as two hearts opened up honestly to each other for the very first time. Perhaps it was because they both had grown up in incomplete circumstances that there was a profound, unspoken connection between them. Two souls, one who had endured years of hardship raising a child alone, the other bearing the scars of a childhood without blood ties, had somehow found peace in each other. A quiet, deep peace, like a sad melody that had finally reached its gentle resolution. After a while, the conversation between them became more relaxed. The awkwardness of earlier days faded, replaced by the comfort of two people who felt like they had known each other for much longer. As Tieu Ca bent down to gather the leftover slices of melon, Hmong suddenly stood up, rolled up his sleeves, and smiled naturally. "All right, today I'm cooking for you and Han. Just a little thank you for giving me such a memorable afternoon. Tieu Can Hin Len Anta, Bat Ngo Trong Mot Gyai, Hua Quoi, and Biet Kash Now and Kong." "Not that well," he admitted with a grin, "but I can manage a few simple dishes. Just trust me this once." He said that and walked into the kitchen, opened the cupboard, and rummaged to see what ingredients were available. Hands once accustomed to holding files and contracts, now gently rinsed vegetables and sliced meat. The rich aroma of sizzling shallots quickly filled the small kitchen, drawing little Han to peek in with curious eyes. It was a scene that felt almost like a dream. A mature, experienced man cooking with such care, as though he were tending to something far greater, a real home. When the steaming pot of soup was ready, Hmong placed the bowl on the table, then turned to Tieu Ca. His voice was warm, calm, yet firm. "By the way, I'm taking you to the clinic tomorrow. The doctor said you needed a follow-up, but you've been putting it off. This time, I won't let you get away with it." Tieu Ca Nin Len, Hoinga Chnhien, Sao Jo Mem Mai, Ban Ho Jiu Jo. "Of course, you always pretend to be strong, but I can tell. Don't hide anymore. From now on, if something's wrong, you don't have to face it alone." She didn't answer. She simply looked at him in silence, her heart quietly swelling with a feeling she couldn't quite name. In that little kitchen, amidst the scent of warm rice and the laughter of a child, a gentle but steadfast love was slowly blooming, needing no grand promises, only presence and timely care. That night's dinner was not luxurious, not made of fine delicacies, but it was incredibly delicious. A bowl of sweet leaf soup with minced pork, a plate of golden fried eggs, and a small dish of chili-infused fish sauce. All came together with Han's cheerful laughter and the meaningful glances shared between Tieu Ca and Hmong. After the meal, Tieu Ca washed the dishes while Hung sat playing with Han. The little girl chattered on about school and the garden, and he listened attentively, not missing a word. From time to time, he glanced toward the kitchen, where the woman he loved was washing the last bowl. A simple image, yet it touched his heart deeply, as if he had finally found what he'd been searching for all these years, a true home. When night had fully settled in, Hung stood up and said his goodbyes. Just before stepping through the bamboo gate, he turned back and looked at Tieu Ca. "Remember, I'll be here early tomorrow. No more excuses to stay home." Tieu Ca smiled and gave a soft nod. No words were needed. Her eyes said everything. Hung walked away, but the smile still lingered on his lips. The moonlight stretched his shadow long across the village path, calm and peaceful. Perhaps a new chapter was quietly beginning for him, and for Tieu Ca and her daughter, rooted in the simplest of moments. Some bonds in life aren't meant to be dazzling or loud. Sometimes it's the quiet, persistent ones, like a small stream running gently through time, that prove to be the most lasting. And then, in a moment of stillness, one realizes they already have everything they need in a gentle gaze, a humble meal, and someone willing to stay for the long journey ahead.
Buổi chiều hôm ấy, nắng vừa tắt, gió khẽ đưa hương thơm dạ từ đồng xa xôi về sân nhà nhỏ. Tieu Ca đang chơi đùa cùng bé Han bên hiên nhà. Tiếng cười trẻ con vang lên trong trẻo như xua tan đi mọi mệt mỏi của cuộc sống. Mẹ con cô vô tư ngồi trước sân nhặt từng cánh hoa rụng đầy sân. Bầu không khí bình dị, bình thường ấy bất ngờ bị xáo động bởi tiếng bước chân rộn vang từ ngoài cổng. Tieu Ca quay lại, nhìn một dáng hình quen thuộc đang tiến gần đến chỗ cô và con, ánh mắt đầy dịu dàng trìu mến. Chính là Hùng. Anh vừa từ xưởng gỗ về, người còn vương bụi gỗ cùng ướt át của mồ hôi, gương mặt lại sáng lên một cách lạ thường. Trên tay anh là một quả dưa căng tròn, mát lạnh, loại quả mà bé Han rất thích. Vừa trông thấy anh, bé Han liền vẫy tay chào. Hùng mỉm cười dịu dàng, cúi đầu xuống và xoa đầu bé Han một cách nhẹ nhàng, đặt quả dưa lên bàn tre. Hai mẹ con mời anh vào nhà ngồi, nhưng anh lại chọn ngồi ở nơi bàn tre đó để hòa cùng không gian yên tĩnh, tĩnh mịch, mát mẻ của buổi chiều tà. Có chút nắng tắt vào những cánh hoa rơi bên thềm mái tóc của người con gái anh thương.